What's going on? Matt Savoca here from Awesemo.com, bringing you the Pro Bowl edition of the DraftKings Contenders video. We got an exciting game. We are finally back for the Pro Bowl this Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern at Las Vegas's Allegiant Stadium. The best of the AFC taking on the NFC in this 99-point total game. I don't know how they come up with the spreads for these Pro Bowls, but we do have some trends that we can rely on here. We'll get into it. We'll get into all the analysis in just a moment. Before that, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. We'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, FanUp. FanUp is offering all sorts of contests for the NBA and for the Super Bowl all this week. Use promo code Awesemo when you sign up to get a $25 free account bonus in your account. No deposit required, and you get 2,000 bonus points, which is the equivalent of $20 to use for betting in your account. Again, no deposit required. Get started by clicking the link in the video description below and download the FanUp app today. Okay, on the screen here, you see my 10 through 6 of my top plays here for DraftKings. At number 10, Hunter Renfrow on the AFC. A very, very solid season, although he fell off a little bit when Darren Waller returned to the lineup. Still, a 28% chance of being in the optimal lineup and a solid salary discount compared to some of the other big names. Speaking of those big names, Mike Evans. Now, not a big separator here, and sometimes you need a little extra separation for a quarterback to get you open in the Pro Bowl here, but I do think you've got some NFC quarterbacks who will take some shots in the end zone. Mike Evans in the optimal lineup 31% of the time. George Kittle in the optimal lineup 32% of the time. And while they would rather be playing next Sunday, George Kittle was a beast for much of the year. And we've seen tight ends in general playing more snaps than their wide receiver counterparts because there's simply less of them per team. George Kittle only splitting the field with Kyle Pitts, who could certainly have a big game himself, but George Kittle is in the optimal lineup nearly a third of the time. Then you've got two wide receivers in the AFC at 7 and 6. First, it's Deontay Johnson with a 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup, peppered with targets game after game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but his skill set does align a little bit and really sort of match up the same exact way as Hunter Renfrow. I think only one of those players has a big game. I would only play one in a lineup, but Stephon Diggs, he has a huge ceiling here. And honestly, at $4,600 in salary, he's one of my favorite players to play at the captain spot. A nearly 10% chance of being that optimal captain and a solid 6% chance of scoring 30 fantasy points, which is really, really hard to do in the Pro Bowl. But still, a 12.1 median projection will take it at that middling salary. He almost cracks the top 5. Who actually does? Let's watch and find out. At number 5, Justin Jefferson playing for the NFC here, and for a bit of the game, he'll probably be catching balls from his quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who is in this game as well. And Jefferson followed up his amazing rookie year last year with a phenomenal sophomore season. Number 4 in the NFL in targets, number 1 in air yard share, and number 7 in total touchdowns, finishing 4th in fantasy points per game. Jefferson is one of those players who only needs 3 or 4 catches to break this game wide open here. And while there are other superstars, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans on the field for the NFC here, I do think Justin Jefferson has the highest ceiling of any wide receiver on this squad. I do like Justin Jefferson more than any other NFC receiver, but he's not quite my favorite receiver on this slate. He comes in at number 5 in nearly 45% of our optimal lineups. At number 4, it's the AFC's Mark Andrews. Just a phenomenal year for Mark Andrews for the Ravens this season. No matter who their quarterback was, Andrews was the one soaking up targets. Number 1 in targets and target share. Number 1 in air yards share. Number 1 in deep targets. Number 1 in red zone targets. Number 1 in receiving yards. Number 1 in completed air yards, and number 1 in fantasy points per game. Mark Andrews had the kind of season that every tight end dreams of, especially compared to the rest of the position, which obviously has stars. We'll talk about some in a moment, but they were a little more up and down compared to the consistency of Mark Andrews. And that 12.1 median projection, that's pretty solid compared to the salary-based expectations of a 6,000 player. He's not scoring 30 fantasy points in really any of our simulations, just under a 3% chance of getting there. And he has a 35% chance of scoring under 10 fantasy points. There's certainly risk involved, but we're really chasing volume and chasing snaps when we have so much uncertainty. We'd rather have 2 tight ends on the field, or 2 tight ends total on the team, rather than the 4 excellent wide receivers on each team there. So in that regard, Andrews is popping in our optimal lineup percentage, just ahead of Justin Jefferson at 45%. At number 3, Deebo Samuel. And yeah, I know this is what the math says, and so I got to present it to you, right? Because Deebo Samuel was the player you didn't want to bet against this whole 2021 season. Just doing it all for the San Francisco 49ers when George Kittle was on the field, when George Kittle was off the field, when he was a running back, when he was a wide receiver, when he was a kick returner. Deebo Samuel was breaking games wide open here. And he does have an outside chance of scoring 30 fantasy points, a 4% chance here. And just a third of our simulations show him scoring under 10 fantasy points here. He's getting double digits, and he's probably leading the NFC in touches. But I actually like Justin Jefferson more than I like Deebo Samuel. I definitely want to present to you what the math says, but I think in this game format, I don't think the coaches are going to be as creative with Deebo Samuel gadget plays as Kyle Shanahan was, especially down the stretch for the 49ers. So I'm not taking anything away from the fantastic season that Samuel had. He's in the optimal lineup 52% of the time, but I will be under the field at the flex and playing him just with the field at the captain spot there, where he is the optimal captain 12% of the time. Still, Samuel, an amazing season. He comes in at number 3. At number 2, Travis Kelce, and look at the salary, 6,400, 13-point median projection. Actually an outside shot of scoring 30 fantasy points according to our sims, and just a third of the time is he getting under 10 fantasy points. We will absolutely take that from our tight end. And again, we've mentioned it over and over in this stream. Tight ends just play more than their wide receiver counterparts, and Kelce, as you would expect when he's playing with Mahomes, at least part of the game here, he's going to end up being that optimal captain in plenty of our simulations. In fact, 12% of the time, that's exactly what's happening here, and 43% of the time, nearly 44% of the time, Travis Kelce is an optimal flex play here. Yep, it was a disappointing end to the Chiefs season for sure, but I expect these Chiefs weapons to come out and play their hearts out in this game. That technically doesn't matter, but they're going to put on a great show here. Travis Kelce in the optimal lineup 56% of the time. Now, before I reveal my final play, my number 1 play on DraftKings for this Pro Bowl slate, just want to remind you guys to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. One more time, we'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, FanUp. Get in there, use promo code Awesemo so you can get $25 free in your account for contests and 2,000 bonus points, which is the equivalent of $20 for betting there. Again, that is all on FanUp. Use promo code Awesemo today. Check out the link in the video description below to get started on the FanUp app today. Okay, guys, let's reveal my number 1 play on DraftKings for the Pro Bowl. At number 1, wait a minute, what is this? Just a Chiefs game here? Tyreek Hill comes in at number 1, just ahead of his teammate Travis Kelce. And yeah, the salary is just pretty salivating for us this week with Tyreek Hill. And as we've mentioned multiple times here, when it's the Pro Bowl, there is so much variance in usage. It's not about talent, it's just about snap share. And so I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to play more or less than Stephon Diggs or Deontay Johnson or Hunter Renfrow or even Travis Kelce, but I do know that Tyreek Hill has the ability to open games wide open with 1 or 2 shots from Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert, or I guess Mac Jones, the third quarterback for the AFC. And we're seeing Tyreek Hill with an over 11% chance of scoring 30 fantasy points. That's pretty solid there. And a 36% chance of him scoring under 10 fantasy points. That's the variance we simply expect from pass catchers in the Pro Bowl here. The median projection compared to salary-based expectation is firmly in the you can play him category. And look at the amount of times he is the optimal captain here. Nearly 16%, more than 16% of our simulations have Hill as the optimal captain, and more than 40% 40% have him in the optimal flex play. That makes him number 1 in 57% of our optimal lineups. And that is gonna do it for the DraftKings edition of the Pro Bowl Contenders video. If you're looking for the FanDuel version of this video, it's around here somewhere. Go ahead and look for it on the channel. We will be back all next week for all the Super Bowl 56 coverage you could possibly want. We'll have it at Awesemo.com, and we will, of course, have it here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. So keep it right here. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you always know. Until next time, I'm Matt Savoca from Awesemo.com. We'll see you guys later.